Hello makers! Today I'm making another card for the Whimsy Stamps Halloweeners design team, and for today's card I'm going to be using the Dracula Going Batty die set, and I'm probably only going to be using this funny tiptoeing Dracula. I think he's hilarious. So this is my plan, is to use this die and pair it with this stencil. Now this stencil has the spiders, it has all the bats, and then it has these bats, and I feel like for today's card design I want to stick with this set of bats. We'll see if I change my mind, but I feel like that. And I want to use Distress Texture Paste, the black opaque texture paste, because when it says black opaque, it is opaque, and so I think that it will do a great job going through this stencil and covering up anything that's in the background, as well as adding some texture. Now let's talk about papers. So you may notice I have two sets of papers out here, and you may be thinking, well, do you need both sets for one card? I kind of have a feeling that I may be making multiple cards today. I feel like I want to show how you can use the same design with different background papers and be able to kind of knock out quite a few cards in one sitting. So the papers that I'm going to be using today are Nevermore, and I'm so excited that this paper set has stayed around, so it's not retired. You can still get it. I'm super excited about that. I really love it. It's the first paper set I used from Whimsy, and I just think it has some wonderful scenes and things on it. Now this paper is single-sided, so the backs of all of these are just plain white paper, and I think this scene is really Halloween-y, suspenseful, that kind of thing, and I think it would be great to have the Dracula kind of tiptoeing through here and some bats going out from the back of this. So I think that would be great. I love the pumpkins, tombstone, got that spider web and the raven, the moon kind of shining down with the fog in the background. It's very eerie. I think that's a great one. Dracula. The other paper pack is the Haunted paper pack, and this is double-sided paper, so there are two sides. Most of the papers have a scene on one side and then maybe a pattern on the back. And so I have chosen for my two scenes, I think this is probably the one I'm going to use. I love it. So it's a fun kind of cartoony. It's got a little bit of a silly feel, cemetery, and I can just see him tiptoeing through here with some bats coming out. I think that'll be perfect for our Going Batty die card. So that's what I feel like I'm going to use today. And so I'm inviting you to come along and let's get making. I began by deciding where I wanted to go ahead and put Dracula, and then I opened my Distress Black Texture Paste. You can see it is very opaque, and I decided on this one that I was going to have it kind of coming out from behind the trees. So I went ahead and just put some on. You don't want it to be much thicker than the stencil when you put it on, but I did the same thing. I kind of placed the die where I thought I would have Dracula go, and then I positioned my stencil, went ahead and stenciled the bats on, and then just set them aside to dry. Now here I'm showing you that I have my black card bases. I have popped up my Draculas. I have put a piece of vellum mat on the back of all of these, and then I stamped and embossed all of the sentiments for each of these onto some vellum to put on the front so that the back still kind of shows through. And I added a third one. But that's my prerogative. And so now I'm going to go and sew around all of them with my sewing machine. So I'm showing you my stitching, and I did a lot of my favorite Halloween messy stitching all around those vellum sentiments, just to be just kind of a little, I don't know, extra with the sewing and the texture. I just love the texture that sewing gives. And I have done sewing in my tutorials in the past and am happy to do them again if you would like to see me do that. But really, it's just like sewing on fabric. You're just sewing on paper, And the beautiful thing about sewing on cards for Halloween is that you don't have to sew straight. I'm not very good at sewing, and so I don't sew very straight. And so that's why I love stitching for Halloween, because you can just be messy and stitch all over it in a crazy manner. All right, so I had something hold those down while my adhesive dried, and now I'm just adding my Draculas popped up so that that also gives just a little bit of dimension. And as I said before, I was going to cut them all from the paper, but I decided to cut them from Ideology Black Craft Stock paper. It's a great kind of a warm black instead of a purple base. So I thought that that went well. And it also tied in a little bit of the black card base that I used the same paper to make my card base. So there we have it, all three of our cards. Well, just like that, my cards are finished. And the thing I love about making more than one card at once is that you kind of can do compartmental making. So you can do all of your die cutting and cut all three of your images. You can do all of your stamping and embossing for your sentiments. You can cut all your mats. You can cut all your card bases. You can cut down all the fronts. You can do your stenciling and all of that all at the same time, and then that makes assembly go so much faster. So let's look at a little bit of the details on these. So I like the sentiments stamped on the vellum, and this sentiment, I am sorry to say, is from a retired set called Boudet Stamps, and it was available when I made the card, but it's not available anymore. So if you have it in your stash, you can use this. Otherwise, just use one from these Spirited Sentiments. The other two are from this set, and it is available. Now, I did alter that a little bit. Instead of a haunting we will go, I just put haunting we will go. And for Happy Haunt, I cut off hauntings. I cut off the ings and just made it him a happy haunt. So I cut them down because I needed them to fit in those spots on the card. Now look at that opaque texture paste. Isn't it fabulous how it is? Not just is it opaque, it is so solid. And then that fun stitching around the card and then around the sentiment. Just silly fun stitching. On this one that I added, just for the fun of it, you can see that popping him up allows the light to kind of shine off the edge, so you can really see him and the detail of him tiptoeing there through the graveyard. And with that, I want to thank you so much for watching and let you know that I hope that you found something in this tutorial that was interesting, educational, inspirational, and that you can use in your own makes. As always, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask those in the comments for this video. And if you're interested in any of the products they use to make these cards, those are linked in the description. And with that, I want to wish you a very creative day.